So we talked a little bit about some of the attitudinal foundations. One is the beginner's mind that we mentioned in the introduction. And that is to simply look at something as if you had never seen it before, with fresh eyes. One of the ways that that is often explained is if you see a young child introduced to something new, they look at it with absolute curiosity and awe, right? They've never seen it before. So they touch it, they feel it, they manipulate it, they do all kinds of things. So they learn about it. They haven't been indoctrinated, they don't have any preconceived notions about what it is that they're looking at. And so it's one of these great ways of looking at life. What if you could look at every day and each moment as if it was fresh, which it is, and see if you can find different aspects about something that you've seen before, which can be quite exciting, instead of, oh, well, this is just that. So in this next exercise, which is called the Raisin Exercise, so you will need 2 raisins. I will not be there with you to hand them to you, so you have to obtain them. If raisins are unappealing to you, or you have some type of allergy to raisins, then you can choose a different object. Sometimes people say, well, why don't you have chocolate? Be a little melty. You can choose something else. Raisins simply tend to be safe, typically. I'd like to touch on before we begin is that of non-striving. Often in our society, we are taught to achieve a certain level of success. There's always this destination. You have to do this, or you need this amount of money, or these amount of diplomas. Non-striving is a non-doing. So in mindfulness practices, we're not trying to just do. We're trying to be present. So we're switching out of doing mode and into being mode. So there is no destination, there is no goal, there's no right answer. So something to keep in mind as we go through our practices. Ultimately, there's a non-striving or a non-attachment to any outcome. The outcome that you experience is the one that you experience. So I've already mentioned that we are doing the raisin exercise. So if you could take one of the raisins, put it in the palm of your hand, and we're going to begin to practice observing the raisin in this moment. And if you've already made some judgments about the raisin, or had thoughts, good or bad, about raisins in general, simply noticing them without judgment. So we'll begin by using your faculty of sight. So taking the raisin, placing it in your hand, and looking at the raisin, examining it. Noticing the color, the skin of the raisin, is it shiny, is it dull? Observing the raisin as if you'd never seen one before. A simple everyday object. Just noticing what it looks like. can pick up the raisin and manipulate it between the index and thumb. Just notice what it feels like. So touching the raisin. So seeing the raisin, touching the raisin. And then using our sense of hearing and manipulating the raisin, turning it, and noticing if it's possible or not to listen to the raisin. Is there any sound or not? And as you do this, noticing when the attention wanders off to thought, judgments, or anything else, simply recognizing that and then returning your attention back to the breath and to the examination of the raisin. Now, using the sense of smell and noticing what the raisin smells like in this moment. As you notice your sense of smell, seeing if you can smell the raisin through one nostril or both nostrils, or is there any difference? And then just noticing what comes to mind in this moment or where the mind is. Bringing the attention back if it's wandered. And then gently placing the raisin to touch the lips. And noticing the reaction that takes place as the raisin hits the lips. Just noticing the reaction starting to take place. Notice the process that starts to unfold as the raisin touches the lips of the mouth. And then placing the raisin inside the mouth, in between the teeth, not chewing the raisin yet. Just noticing the process of taste occurring in the mouth, perhaps saliva starting to increase. Using the teeth to taste the skin, just feeling the texture, the tongue. Manipulate from the teeth and the tongue and just the feeling of the raisin in the mouth. Observing this moment as it is, and slowly biting into the raisin, slightly breaking the skin. And tasting the raisin. Just experiencing the flavor as it is, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. Just tasting the raisin ever so slightly. Observing the texture as it bursts open with the bite. And then gently and slowly chewing the raisin. taking your time, being patient. Just tasting the flavor of the raisin as it is, without any judgment. And then when you're ready, finishing chewing and slowly swallowing the raisin. Soaking in that experience. Bringing awareness to what that was like. And then when you're ready, taking the second raisin and repeating the process. And noticing the differences between the first raisin and the second raisin as you examine the color, the texture, is the color the same? Is it different? Is the size different? The shape? And just observing anything else that you notice as you look into this second raisin. And then moving from sight and seeing into listening. Touching. Maybe listening on the other ear. Just bringing curiosity and attention to this raisin. Using the sense of smell. Does it smell the same or is it different? Slowly placing the raisin and touching the lips, running the raisin along the lips. And again, noticing the process that unfolds as we begin to start tasting an everyday object. In this case, a raisin. Then placing the raisin in the mouth, manipulating the raisin with the teeth and the tongue. Perhaps touching the roof of the mouth, placing the raisin underneath the tongue, gently biting into, breaking the skin of the raisin and tasting the raisin. And then beginning to slowly chew the raisin with intention, slowly but deliberately. And gently chewing the raisin, and swallowing when you are ready. And when you hear the sound of the bowl, conclude the practice.